Alrighty, so we're on step 25. We need some hardware, but I'm going to do this in two halves because we've got to put the servo in and attach our linkage to the steering arms, etc. and activators, and then we've got to put this in, which is your electronic speed controller, and of course we've got to find a home for the switch because this is not the normal Tamiya switch. So let's have a little look. So let's pop this in here. So pop this in here first of all. I'm going to use the supplied hardware for my upgraded steering system because it's an aluminium system as opposed to the Tamiya plastic one. So the process is virtually the same, except you'll be using different hardware. You'll be using step screws, whereas I'm using these hex driving ones. So that's going to line those up and pop those on and twiddle those into place. Give that a little nip up. Yep. So that's the arm on there. And that looks good. And then we need to take from the underneath, we need to collect these MA5s, which are the 3x10 countersunk screws, and we need to collect the holes underneath to put in your servo. There we are. So you can see your servo in, and we'll probably have some adjustments to do for the steering, and then this has got to sit in here because that could go like that, and we could hold down, yeah, so it could go like, and I can reach in and collect. So that could go there. Just a little bit wary of the noise of, so it could, the other way it could go is it could go there, and I could reach in underneath the body and turn this on. Could do that. So I'm going to come back to that at a later stage because I'm going to look at my options. So that's effectively part one of step 25. We got out obviously to the switch and whatever. Let's do the next part, which is part two of step 25. Okay, so I've just been looking ahead at step 25 and popping our receiver in place, and this top brace, which is your a D1 component, and then you've got your D9 component which sits on here for your aerial tube. Now I've noticed that this sits over where these are, and you may recall that I used a certain nut and bolt here and here, so I am going to need to revert back to the originals, which is the long grub screw and this threaded tube. So I'm going to need to take these back out and chop those back over to the original ones. They should still work because they should still go through the bearings. So just an amendment there. Okay, so we finish off the remaining step of step 25. So we need this D1 component and the D9 component. So get this the right way around. So we get the aerial go through. This D9 component goes in here. So we kind of need to, oh yeah, the other way around. It only goes one way. And then we need to take our MC6, which is our 3x8mm screw. We need to pop that in there. There we are. That's for your aerial. There we go. So that's that bit ready for us. We've got to put our receiver in. So double-sided tape. There we go. Got to put our receiver over the top, on top here. There we are. Something like that. We've got some wires to tidy up. And then we pop in place here. Pop the aerial through so it's ready. This slots in place. Goes over those two where the steering which I had to readjust, of course. There we are. There we are. That goes in place there. Right, now it's screwing into the chassis. And the last step we need is motor cover. And this one needs to, it needs to go here. So actually we need to remove this one, change that for, I believe we changed it for an MA12, yep. Change that for an MA12. Pop that in place. And then the last screw, which is your MC5, I believe this is, which is a 3x10mm machine screw, goes in the top here. There you are. And that is now definitely step 25 completed. Got to tidy up the wires though. Okay, and we're now on step 26, and on step 26 it's a case of putting the tyre on the wheel, and you can see my wheel is nicely painted now, so it's a case of stretching this over best you can, and do wait until everything's nice and dry. Stretch it over, and what you've got to do is make sure that it sits correctly. So it tells you here, if you're using Tamiya wheels, where to make it sit. Now these are not Tamiya wheels, these are the upgraded wheels that Peter got for me. These are the K-Force wheels and tyres, so just making sure they sit in the rim nicely. And you can see here, look, not sitting nicely in, and just make sure, there we are. So that's now done. Step 26, all the wheels and tyres are now sitting nicely. So step 27 we're on next, and as I've got these upgraded hex from Boom Racing RC, they're aluminium with the pin and the grub screw, and it's quite a simple case of, I've done all 3 corners, I'm just doing the last one. So you take your car and you take your last one of your bearings, and put one of your bearings in, as you can see, slots in. Take one of your pins, it goes across, and so it doesn't fall out, put it horizontal. Take one of your hexes and pop your hexes over like so, and as this is a locking hex, it's a case of locking the grub screw down. So that's 27 part A, if you like, or part 1, and then we've got to put the wheels and tyres on. And the next step of 27, step 27 is to, once we've put our hexes on, as we've done previously, we need to put our wheel and tyre on. And it's a simple case of slotting this over, taking your M4 nut, which is got a nylon thread inside as well, placing that on and screwing that on. And it's just a case of nipping that up so it's tight. Don't have to go too bad. So there we now have step 27 completed. Yep, so let's do step 28 while we're here. Need one of these, which is the larger of the body clips, or the snap pins as they call it. And you need this D5 component, which is your battery strap. And technically your battery will sit in here, and you put your battery strap over the top like so. And we're going to need a couple of these snap pins, so I'll just fish out the other one, which is in here. My little stash, and then you basically pop them through, so like that, one there, and you collect the holes. Easy peasy, easy peasy. There we are. Step 28 is now complete. we've got to do is put a little wobbly wobbly on there. Which is a piece of cake. Right, so technically speaking, we now have a rolling chassis. Looks pretty good indeed.